Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. In this episode, I'm going to be talking with Ryan Dyar about being creative and the creative process and things that get in the way of being creative. Before we jump into the episode, I do have a couple of announcements. I have launched my 2018 Palouse tours. If you're interested in joining me in the Palouse, which is where I live, you can go over to nickpagephotography.com and get signed up there. Also, I do have one spot available in this year's Kauai workshop. Majid Badazadigan and I are going to be going to Kauai this December. We have one spot left. It's an absolutely beautiful place to do photography. Go check that out on the website as well if you're interested. So, in this episode, we're going to be talking about being creative with Ryan Dyar. So being creative is not always the easiest thing. There are times when you go out to shoot and it just doesn't come very easily. So when I think of creative photography, I definitely think of Ryan Dyar. And so it's pretty awesome that we have Ryan on the show today. Thanks for coming on.
Shucks. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. I feel like we talk a lot, but we never hang out. What is up with that?
I know we live in the same state. We should probably get together at some point.
Yeah. Well, no, we probably won't ever.
Well, we've both got the rooftop tents. We can go camping.
It's true. Well, we're like rooftop brothers.
Oh yeah, we could park like as close together as we can and like just hold hands out the side door of our tents.
That would be we can make a little heart with our hands, you know.
Oh yeah, even better. We could do you remember when you were a kid and you put two like soup cans together with a string?
Exactly. Yeah. Little telephone action. That'd be amazing. It'd be amazing.
Nick, are you okay over there?
Yeah, I'm just trying to sleep. Will you shut up?
I'm scared, dude.
Ryan's photography is totally epic. Like if you haven't already heard of Ryan Dyar, which I'd be surprised if you hadn't, Ryan's photography is epic and amazing and vibrant and dramatic and all of the things that I find inspiring about photographers that I follow. He kind of embodies that. And one of the things that has always struck me about Ryan's photography is that it always has just that creative something special about the photo. And it's something that I strive for in my own photography, where when I take a photo, like it has to have like something special going for it. Otherwise, it's just kind of another photo. And Ryan's photography is excellent for that.
I don't know. I feel that something special is kind of getting redundant in my own work. Well, like I look at my shots and I go, it's kind of all the same. So, which is, good for this topic because I've been going through very much this, kind of creative struggle. And like, I've got so many shots sitting on my hard drive that I just can't be bothered to work on right now. Because I'm kind of in that like writer's block sort of thing that we all go through. So,
and that's the thing about this subject is it doesn't matter whether you're a beginner or a seasoned vet like Ryan, like we all go through it. We all go through those times where we're just not inspired, or we go out to shoot and we're just like, man, I can't see a photo here. And I constantly think to myself, like, if Enrico Fossati was here, he would make a great photo with what is here, but I just can't see it. I can't make it happen.
That dude can make brilliant work out of nothing. Like he's just a wizard.
He is.
I love his stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think we all go through that writer's block or whatever you want to call it. Right. But in my opinion, you always come out of the other end of it for the better.
Yeah.
Because it's that writer's block that forces you to think a little bit differently or try new things. I mean, that's always been the fire that kind of makes me branch out a little bit. And so I always, I tend to like progress in like big jumps. It's not like this slow progression. I'll do something and go through a slump, and then a couple months later I come out of it having kind of tweaked what I do and approaching things differently. So, I tend to embrace it a little bit, I guess, because I know it makes me a better artist. So,
and I think that's the normal progression of things, is because like you fall in love with a new technique or a new focal length or something, and you do it to death. Like that just becomes like what your photography is about for a while. Like, man, I am all about that focal length blending, and every single shot is going to be a vertical shot, focal length blended, and you do it to death to where you just get sick of it. And as a result, you kind of get sick of your own photography for a while because everything you've been doing has kind of had that same thing going for it. And then and then you kind of take a break from it and you're like, well, what do I want to do now? And
I mean, you kind of find a formula that works and you're like, this is awesome. I'm loving everything I'm doing until you
hating everything you're doing. Until you're not.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it forces you to think a little bit differently, like, and even the locations you go, like I'm getting a little burnt out after 10 years of shooting mountain wildflower shots. like flowers are blooming at Mount Rainier right now.
Have you ever shot a mountain wildflower shot? I've never seen one of those from you.
A couple. I mean, enough that it's probably 90% of my portfolio.
Right.
Like right now, the wildflowers are blooming at Rainier. They're starting to come out. And I'm just sitting there going, you know, like it just, so it's good because, the slumps force you to do new things.
Exactly.
So, you can embrace it.
So in the beginning, I think a lot of the creative struggles that people have, especially the person still learning their camera, is that the gear just gets in the way. Like I know when I take people on workshops, a lot of times they will show up at a location and we'll get set up and that person will be fiddling with their camera and their tripod and all of the technical aspects before they even see what it is that they're about to take a photo of. Like we'll be there 5 minutes and then a person will look over at me and be like, so what are we taking pictures of? I'm like, oh yeah. And so like one of my favorite things that Majid Badazadigan does is that when we first show up, he just like keeps his gear in the bag and he just kind of walks around with his cell phone and just kind of starts, experimenting with compositions and stuff.
Yep.
And that way you're right off the bat, you're like looking at what's actually there rather than dealing with all of the technical stuff first. And it just puts you in a weird state of mind when you get too technical too early in the shoot.
The most important thing, I think, is being completely comfortable with your camera, right? Yeah. Like I'm to the point now where I don't even have to think about my camera. The camera's just, just a thing that's in front of me, and I could operate it blind. And I think that helps a lot because that takes away any worry about settings or lenses or whatever. Like, I see something and I go, okay, I know how to shoot it. And I don't think you have to like practice learning your camera only in the field. Like sit on the sofa, watch, Law and Order and fiddle around with your camera. Like whatever you're going to do, like just get comfortable with it. Even just comfortable with it in your hand where the buttons are. If it's the middle of the night, you don't have to be turning on your headlamp to be shooting. You can just operate it completely blind. Even down to like, where certain focus points would be on your focus ring. I mean, get completely comfortable with it. That way you can focus on the creativity part of it when you're out there. You don't have to sit and worry about, all the technical BS.
Yeah. So. One of the things that Ryan and I both share is that we're both musicians and well, you're kind of, no, I'm kidding.
I played drums for a while.
But this relates really well to music because if you think about learning to play guitar, it's very difficult to be super creative and write a masterpiece if you have to look at your fingers and like grab your fingers and put them in the shapes of the chords, those learning stages, it's very, very difficult to be creative. You're just not. And when you're learning to play an instrument or guitar, you learn by playing other people's music because, they've already taken the time to be creative. You need to learn to emulate that and learn what it's like to be creative and get past the technical stage. That way, when you get better, you can sit down, not think about where your fingers are and just play. And
the chords are second nature and you can just sit there and go, I want this sound. So you create that sound.
Right. Exactly. All art is just kind of that way where you have to get the technical stuff out of your way. So the other part of your brain can be creative. And another thing that happened to me recently, like most people that follow me on social media and everything know, when I went to Iceland, I landed and found out that my mom died. And that I didn't have any technical issues in the way, but I was certainly not in the mood to be creative because my mind was just not in that mode. I was in this mode where I had a dark rain cloud following me everywhere and I just wasn't in the mood,
My wife and I were talking about that the other day, just impressed that you were able to push through that and still be professional. And
it was challenging. And my participants were kind enough to be like, Nick, we could probably make this work without you. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to make you pay for a workshop that I didn't show up to. And it was a really tough situation. It's not something I would wish on anybody, but it worked out. And so that whole trip, I was just kind of going through the motions of being a photographer. I knew what the process was like, and I wasn't inspired and I wasn't interested in what I was doing. I was just doing it. And when I get back and I look at the photos, in some cases, I can definitely see that. I didn't put any effort into my photography.
Yeah.
But I also was able to kind of capture the place. I captured the mood somehow that I was in my photos. So when I go to post-process them, they're just doom and gloom and rainy day and so depressing. Some of the most depressing photography I've ever done. And you can see that emotion that I was feeling at the time.
Yeah, I picked up on that from what you posted from Iceland. I immediately was like, these images make sense.
And it's, and it's kind of crazy. That's something that I have always felt was kind of missing from my own photography, was just feeling and emotion. And it's something that I'd always admired in other people's photography. And apparently all it takes is your parents dying and you can have that. So, so I guess the tip is go out and shoot right after the loss of a loved one and you can make really depressing images too.
I mean, that's kind of my bread and butter, is the dramatic, moody. But I think that more says a lot about me and not what I'm going through at the time.
Right.
I'm just kind of that moody, just kind of guy.
Ryan keeps a picture of his dead cat in his pocket and he just looks at it and he's like, and then he takes a photo because it puts him in the.
I have a tattoo up here of my two dead cats' names. I swear to God.
That was so close to the truth. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yep.
See, I knew you were Ryan, the dead cat photographer. That makes sense.
I'm such a cat guy too. But my buddy Miles Morgan, he makes fun of me just nonstop lately because I text him pictures of my cats and his girlfriend wasn't feeling well. So I took a picture of my cat and drew a doctor's outfit on it and sent it to her saying she'll be feeling better soon. It's just but
dad jokes. That's great.
Dad jokes.
Cat dad jokes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the technical aspect can get in the way, for the majority of the first several years of your photography. And then there's the times when you just aren't in the mood. But then there's the other times when you show up to a location. And I think that especially when you've been doing a type of photography a lot, wide angle wildflowers with mountains in the background photography. And then you show up where that type of shot just isn't there. I feel like a lot of times people go into a location with preconceived notions of what they're going to do.
I do that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can't make it happen. And then you're like, well, there's no photo here,
Yeah. For me, when my wife Candace and I go out shooting, we have similar tastes, but also very different tastes in what we like to do. So we'll go out and shoot something and, it'll be a spot that she wants to shoot. I'm not necessarily that into it. And so I just kind of don't put any effort into it. And then we get home and I, walk through the family room where she's sitting there processing shots. And I'm like, shit, why didn't I shoot that? Yeah.
Exactly.
So, just seeing the way other people's minds work creatively can help as well. Shooting with other people, as much as I don't necessarily like to shoot with a lot of other people. I've got my friends, Miles, David, my wife, Candace, shooting with people on workshops, things like that. It's for me, I don't like to shoot with a ton of people, but it's good to do because you see the way other people's minds work, and that can be very inspiring.
Yeah, it can kind of take you out of the rut that you're currently in, just to see a different type of approach to the same place that you were just at.
For sure. Yeah. that's super helpful because other people will always 100% of the time see things differently than you do, even if they're pretty similar. Like, I'll shoot with my wife or with Miles, and we'll be shooting right next to each other, same scene, and their take on it is significantly different than mine. Right. And so that's beneficial, I think.
And I think that when people sign up for a workshop, I think that's one of the biggest things that they're getting, is because if you get used to shooting by yourself, or maybe you have your spouse that doesn't do photography and they're like standing over there, like twiddling their thumbs as you're trying to compose and all that, you get used to shooting that way. And then you get the opportunity to shoot with somebody like a Ryan Dyar that's really good at, the creative process and stuff. Well, all right. You get that chance to see how they work. That's one of the most valuable parts of a workshop, is just seeing all the different approaches from the other participants, from the instructor.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Even the other participants learn from each other. Just being in that group setting, you'll see things that you never thought of.
Yeah.
Because there's other people around to kind of take you out of your comfort zone or push you in a certain direction. And, it's much easier for other people to push you out of your comfort zone than for you to push yourself out of your own comfort
Absolutely.
zone.
And a lot of times it's just the little things, like when you get used to shooting by yourself, there's a lot of little things that you don't know that you don't know. So sometimes it's just like a focusing method, like, oh, I never thought to do that. And that happens for the instructors as well. Like there's a lot of times there's just those little things where like, why didn't I think of that? I'm going to keep that to myself.
When I'm teaching, processing lessons, things like that, I'll be doing something, and pretty often, I'm showing somebody something and they go, there's a way easier way to do that, right? I'm like, huh? They're like, oh, you just hit this. And I'm like, Jesus, like a lot of like the keyboard shortcuts I know and like quick little things come from people I'm teaching.
Right.
So, and I think that's a healthy thing to remember, is that just because like I make a living doing this, like this is my full-time job, doesn't mean I know it all. That's why I don't like to use the term professional photographer. Like it's not on my website, in my bios, anywhere, because I don't know. I can't stand that term for myself, because
it's presumptive.
There's so much I don't know and still want to learn. And I think that's what keeps me interested. The moment you go, okay, yeah, I'm the best I can be, then like, why bother?
Exactly. That's the moment that you stop getting better. The moment that you say, oh, look at how good I am. That's the moment that you're no longer hungry enough to improve. Yeah. And I hope that I never get to that point.
For sure. I might get a little burned out on photography sometimes, just because, it's my whole life. Like all my friends are photographers. My wife's a photographer. Our vacations are photography related. Yeah.
The conversation over the dinner table is about white balance and
it really does get that way. So sometimes I can be a little like burn out on it, but I still love it, so I don't know. I think the second you give up trying to learn new things, you'll just get left behind. You'll lose all interest and
you'll be like the guy with the beard that listens to music from the 90s because he doesn't like anything newer than that.
I could turn you on to some good new stuff. There's some good new stuff.
I need a little bit of that in my life, because man, I'm stuck. Like Spotify knows what I like, and it's really sad how well like Spotify and Pandora can predict a person's musical taste just by like a couple clicks of that mouse, and man, they know every song that I like, and it's
for sure
sad. But
if you haven't gotten into Ariana Grande yet, you should, because it's awesome.
All right, I'll check
Justin
it out.
Timberlake.
Oh no, are you serious? Are you being serious?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding about Ariana Grande. I'm serious about Justin Timberlake.
Okay, well, I thought that was backwards.
And Taylor Swift.
Okay. I don't believe you, Ryan Dyar.
Not so guilty pleasures. I swear to God. Actually,
this is the same guy that I was having a conversation with about death metal like the last time we talked. So
yeah, Ryan Adams covered Taylor Swift's 1989 album. The whole thing is freaking brilliant. I don't know if you're a Ryan Adams fan, but it's
not really
good.
Not really.
Okay.
Was he in the 90s?
Yeah.
Oh well.
He's like kind of folk singer type of stuff.
All right. Well,
it's not your speed, I know.
I'll give it a chance.
It's a little slow. Anyways,
getting back to like, we kind of got away from it a little early, but getting back to like the showing up to a scene and kind of trying to impose your will upon it. One of the things that I've worked really hard at lately with my photography is showing up and letting the scene itself dictate how I'm going to shoot. Like actually see what's there and not try to just force my type of photography onto a scene. Like actually, absorb it and see what's possible there. And
for sure.
And it's one of those things that I've kind of struggled with because I do get stuck in those ruts. Yeah.
I was out at Smith Rock a few months ago. You've been to Smith Rock before, right?
I have.
You get there, and every time I go, it's like, wow, this is incredible. It's just massive, imposing, rock faces. And then I try to shoot it, and I've got this preconceived notion of what it should be, and I try to do it, and it doesn't work. So last time I went, I took that approach of like, okay, well, what I want to do just isn't going to work. I've tried it, dozens of times over the past decade. And so I kind of just, I just walked around looking through the lens and trying to figure out what works and what is possible. And I got something I'm okay with, but I still don't think it's the best shot that could be done from out there. Mm-hmm. But that's another thing is some scenes they look incredible when you're standing there immersed in it and you put a camera on it and it just, nothing. It just doesn't translate. And that's something hard to do is translating the scale or the feeling or the imposing rock walls that, you have to look up to see. Mm-hmm. That's another creative challenge is trying to convey that. It's not always possible.
Right. Anybody that's been to the Grand Canyon knows exactly what you're talking about there. It's
for sure.
It's an amazing place to take in, and it's an impossible place to photograph and to really convey it. Like there are some good photos of the Grand Canyon, but none of them do it justice though.
Yeah. You can make good shots, but you can't portray the feeling, the vastness or the greatness of the place,
right?
In a single image.
Exactly.
But that's another big challenge creatively that I find is just trying to put the viewer there, and that's always my goal is like make it feel like you can walk into the scene, and some scenes just don't lend themselves to that,
And I think another place where people kind of get stuck in ruts and they struggle with creativity is the post-processing side. Just like any other part of our photography, it's really easy to just do the same. You get your workflow down and you do it to every image. And then pretty soon all of your photography starts to look the same, which is great for being consistent. It's not so good for feeling fulfilled because you're not changing and growing. And as artists, we get kind of addicted to that. We want to create something new. And when it feels like you go to various places and you create the same photo from all these different places over and over, it doesn't feel very new and fresh. So one of the things that I like to do is just try to find a new photographer that has kind of a different style in post-processing and just try to get inspired by different looks and different feelings and different styles. Where do you get your inspiration?
A lot of it's from painters. I've said this in a million interviews and podcasts, but Albert Bierstadt and a lot of the kind of luminous Hudson River school of painters. I love it. Like if I could paint, I would throw my camera out the window. Actually, for Father's Day, my wife got me like oil paints and canvas. That's cool. Easel, and like I'm too intimidated to try to do it. But I get a lot of inspiration from that just because there's a way they handle dynamic range and light that is really interesting and not real at all. But, that's the cool thing about painters is they can paint whatever the hell they want and nobody bats an eye. Mm-hmm. But it's
not necessarily true with photography.
If I warp a mountain, then I'm the devil. So
We were joking before the show that Ryan is so good at making people mad.
Yeah, that's what my career has hinged upon, is just pissing people off over the past decade, which I love it. It's fine with me. Now, yeah, I mean, there was a thing today that somebody thought that, the way I process is kind of damaging the photography industry, and that's fine to think that way.
Well, here's the thing: is like, photography is art, and everybody kind of has to find what, where their place is going to be in that creative spectrum. You have photo documentarians. You have photo documentarians that are like, they want to produce a literal example of what the place looked like. And then you have people that want to take a little bit more creative spin on it and, do something special with post-processing. And then you have people that are like, you know what? This is my art. I'm going to hang this picture on the wall because it's art. And, and those people throw caution to the wind and they do what they want. And none of it is wrong. Like, that's the thing you're not, none of these people are selling stuff as, this is exactly how the place looked when I was there. But that's the thing. If I pass off what I did as 100% documentary style of shooting, right,
then yeah, kind of screw me a little bit. I get it. But like, when I'm questioned about how I'm doing these things and passing them off as, false, that can't be it's the furthest thing from the truth. I mean, what I do is I make videos and sell them. Give me $50, you can have it. But I document in video what I do to my images and put it out there for the world to see. I state on my website, I'm not a photo purist. I take a lot of artistic liberties. So sometimes I feel attacked by people saying, well, you're kind of duping, image viewers. Well, if they feel duped, that's fine. That's not on me, because I put it out there, everywhere that, this is what I do. And if you don't like it, that's perfectly fine. I understand. And I love purist photography as well. I can appreciate all of it. But I'm not gonna talk crap about anybody based off of what they like to do. Like, it just doesn't matter that much to
exactly
me.
Because there's room for everybody. There's room for every different type of photography, and everybody it's up to them to decide what it is that they want to do. Like I'm somewhere in between there. Like, me personally, like, I want to milk out the most of what I got at the time. And I'm not afraid to make it, look more like it felt to me. And if that means getting rid of wide angle distortion and making that mountain that was in the middle of my frame taller like it was in real life, then I'm
for sure
totally fine with that.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've chose just for myself, just for a happiness point, is that I don't swap skies. And the reason for it is because it would take the fun out of chasing skies.
Yeah.
And it's just a personal thing. And it doesn't mean that people that do that are wrong, because there's no such thing as wrong in an art form.
There's room for death metal and there's room for Taylor Swift.
Exactly.
That's the way I think about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's the equivalent of, like, people saying that when things went digital and synth, that it's no longer music, and it's not entirely true. You might have a preference, and that's okay too. You can totally have a preference.
For sure.
But auto-tune, that stuff ain't right. Like, auto-tune's wrong, but whatever.
I don't know. I don't think auto-tune's all that bad.
I don't know. Making bad singers into good singers since 2010.
Sure. I mean, everybody needs a little help sometimes.
Exactly. And make a few $1 million. So man, what else is there? Like, when it comes to being creative, I think the biggest things are overcoming technical hurdles that are getting in your way and obstructing you from just having the ability to be creative. Try to open your eyes when you go to a place and see it for what it is, rather than what you're trying to force it to be.
Yep.
Be inspired by other art.
Big time. Like, there's a lot of people who will say, you got to do something new and unique and completely different than anybody else is doing it. Well, I mean, that's not so true in my eyes. I mean, you can kind of take bits and pieces from what you like about certain people and their styles and kind of form your own Frankenstein monster that is your thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I don't think any photographer out there right now can honestly say they've not been inspired in some way by another shooter or another, you know, artist. So embrace the fact that you can be inspired. You can say, Enrico does this. I love that. You know, Ted Gore does this. I love that. You know, Ryan Dyar does this mediocre. And so maybe I can do it better than him. But, you know, take bits and pieces and kind of create your own thing, but embrace being inspired. You know, you don't have to be labeled as a hack or a thief because you get inspired by somebody.
Right. And a lot of times it's learning the way that other people work, learn that first, and then use that as a launching point for where you're going to go. That's the same is true for music. I always bring it back to music, but it's true. Like when you're first starting a band, you start off playing covers in other bands. Yeah. And
when you first pick up a guitar, you play Smoke on the Water.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, you emulate and that's how you learn. You get technically proficient. You know, you gotta learn the basics and become comfortable with them before you can write music or, you know, create something entirely original in your art.
Yeah.
You know, so
every art form is influenced by multiple things, and it's totally okay for that to happen in photography as well.
Absolutely.
So what cool stuff do you have coming up?
Let's see. Got a Iceland tour coming up. That's full. Your guys is full too, isn't it?
Yeah. But
your last one? Cool.
When are you going?
September.
So I have one in September as well.
What dates?
I don't remember off the top of my head. Somewhere in there in the middle.
We might be there at the same time.
That'd be awesome.
First round's on me then.
All right, cool.
We've got 2 tours to Norway back to back.
That's awesome.
With lofotentours.com. Launching a new project, entirely new project in the next couple of days. Whole new website, new company.
Oh, wow.
With some cool people. So I'll be announcing that. So yeah, follow me on Instagram at Ryan Dyar. Subscribe to my email list on my website for discounted videos and discounted tour rates. And
if you want to learn how to...
And that new project.
Yeah, and if you want to learn how to warp a mountain...
Come to me. I'm your guy.
He's the guy.
Fake it till you make it.
That's so awesome.
That's the motto.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show, dude.
Dude, absolutely love talking to you. So
awesome. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. Remember that you can subscribe on iTunes and all that stuff. This is an audio podcast as well. So we'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.